Bonjour and good morning. Welcome to WASA Distance Education and PLAR Math. And this is our second class in term 2B, so it's week 2 of classes. Last week we only had one class because of the Remembrance Day holiday on Tuesday. So this week we're back to our normal 2 classes per week. So this term 2B, runs from last Monday, November 10th, till January 23rd. So after the Christmas break, we will be finishing up term 1B. So this the PLAR classes for this term are on for PLAR Math. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 till 12, and PLAR Science is Mondays and Wednesdays from 11 till 12. So PLAR is in the same time slot as it was last term. Just a reminder that there are 2 ways to participate in classes. So you can join classes using the radio, call into our studio, or you can join classes using Zoom. Use the link provided or go to nnec-on-ca.zoom.us. The instructions are in your study guide for joining the Zoom classes. All PLAR English students are welcome to attend classes, so you don't have to be signed up for radio Zoom classes. Even if you've signed up for IL, you can still attend the radio Zoom classes if it works out for you. To contact me, you can use email, phone, or send a message on Facebook. All of my contact information is on the front page of your study guide and all of the lessons. So you should have no trouble finding how to contact me. Students who were working on the PLAR from term 1A, so if you're working on the PLAR English or the PLAR History Geography last term, you can keep working on the key questions or the culminating activity, whatever you were working on, and continue to submit it to your teacher. The recorded classes from last term and from last year are still available on the WASA YouTube channel. To get to the WASA YouTube channel, go to YouTube and search WASA Distance Education Center. You will see our little logo and WASA Distance Education Center on your screen. Click on the logo or the name, and then when you get to our channel, you'll just see a random selection of classes. Okay, so rather than look through all of the classes that are there, go to playlists right there in the list underneath our logo. Click on playlists. Once you do that, you will find playlists for all of the courses that WASA has offered basically since last year. So look through the playlist for the course that you're doing. So for example, the PLAR Math, it's down here right now, but when you actually go to YouTube, it could be somewhere else in the list. So take a look around for it. Then click on View Full Playlist, and then you will get the list of PLAR Math classes from 2024-2025. So this will be the classes that were recorded last year in term 2B. So the material is pretty much the same. So if you watch these classes, they will help you with the math that we're doing now. So you can go back and watch those classes. As I record new classes, they are being uploaded to YouTube. So pretty soon you will see a PLAR Math for 2025, 2026 there. And those are the newer classes. The PLAR History, PLAR English, and PLAR Geography playlists from last term are there as well as I believe the playlists from last year. But use the most updated version if you are watching the classes. Okay, just a reminder that at the end of every term, WASA has student draws, one for students who earn a credit during the term and one for students who submit work during the term. So for every lesson that you submit, your name will be entered into the submitted work draw, and for every credit that you earn, your name will be entered into the credit draw. So you could, especially if you're doing just the culminating activities for the PLAR, you could technically get all 5 culminating activities finished in one term if you need all 5, and then your name will be entered into that draw 5 times. So the more work you complete, the better your odds of winning. All PLAR students have the option of writing the culminating activity instead of doing the lessons and key questions. So even if you started out this term or you started out last term working on the key questions and you get part way and you go, oh, this is so easy. If that's what's happening in your case, then you can opt to write the culminating activity. So instead of finishing up the lessons, you can ask for the culminating activity. If you pass the culminating activity, then you will get the missing credits for that subject. And you don't have to worry about the lessons, you just move on to the next subject. If you don't pass the culminating activity, then you will have to do the lessons and complete the key questions. And then you'll write another culminating activity after the work is finished. So as I mentioned, if you're finding the work really easy, then you could probably just do the culminating activity and pass it and be done with it. If you've been out of school for a long time and you haven't done much in the area of math or English, reading and writing and that type of thing, so your skills might be a little bit weaker, then it might be a good idea for you to do the lessons first just for that refresher and then do the culminating activity after that. So just think about where your skills are and then go from there. Okay, so in your lessons, if you do decide to do the lessons, you'll notice that there are support questions and key questions. The support questions are the practice questions that you do as you go through the lessons. So you'll read a section in the lesson and then there will be a support question. Then you'll read another section, another support question. Be sure that you do the support questions and then at the end of the lesson, or actually near the end of the lesson, you will find the answers to the support questions. So do your support questions, go to the answers to the support questions, and check your answers against the answers that are there. If you're doing really well with the support questions, then you can move on to the key questions. Okay, the key questions are the questions, those are your assignments, and those are the questions that you submit to me for marking. Those are the only ones. Again, the support questions have the answers there, so do not send those out to me. I'll just send them back and say the answers at the end of the lesson. Okay, so for submitting your work, the first way to do it is to give it to your DEC, and your DEC will send it out to us here in Sioux Lookout. If you don't have a DEC or a learning center in your community, then you can submit your own work. Just remember that if you are submitting your own work, be sure to write your name on your work. Okay, because if you send it through email, the email name that you use might not match the name that we have on file, so we won't be able to find you. If you send it via Messenger, same thing. The name that you use on Messenger might not match the name that you signed up with, so we won't be able to find you. So make sure that you put your name on your work before you send it. Okay, so if you're submitting your own work, you can. One way to do it is to scan and email your work to our student work email address, studentwork@nnec.on.ca, and make sure you CC it to me. Or if you have access to a fax machine, you can fax it to our toll-free fax number. Okay, if that doesn't work for you, if you don't have a scanner or a fax machine, then you can use your smartphone. With your smartphone, you can take photos of your work, or you can scan your work using the built-in scanner, and then you can email it to that same student work email address and CC it to me, or you can send your work using Facebook Messenger. Okay, if you live in Sioux Lookout or the surrounding area, you can stop by Wausau on Front Street and drop off your work in our outdoor mailbox, which is located at the side of the building in the parking lot, or you can ring our doorbell at the front door off Front Street and give your work to the person who answers the door. If you do stop by Wausau and I haven't met you yet, please ask for me so that I get to meet you. The last way is to use Google Docs and send me the link. So if you're sending me the link, if you're doing your work on Google Docs and you're sending me the link, make sure the link is shareable so that I have access to it. Okay, so moving on. So today we are going to First of all, start off with a review of what we talked about last day, and then we'll move on to subtracting integers, I believe. So first of all, just a quick review of negative numbers. So numbers don't stop at 0. They go below 0. So when you count backwards from 0, you're going into the negative numbers. So when you think of negative numbers, you can either think of a number line or a thermometer. So we all know that in the winter, our temperatures can go below 0. So when they go below 0, they go into the negatives. So positive numbers are more than 0, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Negative numbers are less than 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. So for every positive number, there is an opposite negative number. So the opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. The opposite of 75, positive 75 is negative 75. The opposite of positive 1 million is negative 1 million. So every positive number has an opposite negative number. So a number line can be used to order negative and positive numbers. So if you're kind of struggling with negative and positive numbers, get a number line or make yourself a number line, look them up on the internet, and that will help you with understanding negative and positive numbers. And it might also help you with adding and subtracting negative and positive numbers. So the number line continues on forever in both directions, the negative direction and the positive direction. 0 is neither positive nor negative. It's very important to remember that. So if your answer to a question is 0, don't put positive 0, don't put negative 0. It's just 0. So that's negative numbers. Negative numbers also include fractions and decimals. Negative integers, however, or the integers, positive and negative, do not include fractions and decimals. They include only whole numbers. So that's the difference between negative numbers and negative integers, or integers and numbers, I guess. So last day, we talked about adding integers. And just like for pretty much everything, there are rules. So the rules for adding integers are, first of all, the sum. So the sum is the answer that you get when you add numbers. The sum of an integer and its opposite is 0. So I talked about every positive integer has an opposite negative integer. So if you're adding 3 plus negative 3, your answer is going to be 0 because they cancel each other out. So if you're adding negative 10 plus 10, your answer is 0. Doesn't matter what the number is. If one is negative, one is positive, and you look at the absolute value of the number, and it's the same, then your answer is always going to be 0. Okay, next, adding two positive integers always results in a positive value that is greater than both of the integers. So for example, 3 plus 7, they're both positive integers. 3 plus 7 will give you 10. 10 is bigger than 3 and 10 is bigger than 7. So your answer, your sum is going to be greater. Next, adding two negative integers always results in a negative number that is smaller than the given numbers. So when you think of your number line up here, when we go to the right of 0, our numbers are getting greater. They're getting bigger. So 10 is more than 3, for example. When we go to the left of 0, our numbers are getting less or smaller. So negative 10 is less than negative 3. Okay, so the further away you go from 0 to the left, the smaller the value of your number. So if you're adding negative 3 plus negative 7, your answer is negative 10. Okay, so a negative plus a negative will always give you a negative answer. And negative 10 is less than negative 3. It's also less than negative 7. Okay, adding a positive number with a negative number is done by finding the difference, which means you subtract. between the absolute value of both numbers. Then the sign with the greater number will attach to the sum. So if we're adding, say, positive 3 plus negative 7, the first thing we're going to do is look at the absolute values. So the absolute value of 3 is 3. The absolute value of negative 7 is 7. So what you're going to do then is subtract the absolute values. So 7 take away 3 is 4. Don't do 3 take away 7 because that's going to give you a negative answer, which is wrong. So 7 take away 3 is 4. Now, is that answer, is that 4 positive or negative? Well, we have to look at our absolute values. 7 is bigger than 3. It's negative, so the answer is going to be negative 4. Okay, so the sign of the bigger absolute value will be your answer. And then, so this one is a bit tricky. You have to be careful with this one. Then adding integers with 0 will result in the same number. So negative 3 plus 0 equals negative 3. 7 plus 0 equals 7. So whatever the number is that you're adding to 0, that's going to be your answer. So here is a little chart to just kind of simplify everything. So if the integer signs are both positive, you're adding, you have to add the numbers together, sorry. Because they're both positive, the answer will be positive. For example, 4 plus 6, positive 4 plus positive 6 equals a positive 10. If you have a bigger positive and you're excuse me, adding a negative number, you are going to subtract the numbers, and because the positive number is bigger, the sign of your answer is going to be positive. So for example, 16 plus minus 7, 16 is bigger than negative 7. It's positive, so your answer is going to be positive. So 16 take away 7 is 9. The answer is positive 9. If the two integers that you're adding, one's positive, one's negative, and the negative is bigger, you still have to subtract the absolute values. Because the negative number is bigger, then the sign of your answer is going to be negative. So for example, 5 plus negative 11 is negative 6. Look at the absolute values, 5 and 11. Subtract. 11 take away 5 equals 6. 11 is bigger. It's got a negative sign, so the answer is negative 6. If both of the integers that you are adding are negative, you're just going to add the numbers together. Because they're both negative, your answer is going to be negative. So negative 3 plus a negative 4 will give you a negative 7. Okay, we'll do a couple of examples because we didn't have much time to do examples last day, but we're not going to do too many. Do one of each. So positive plus a positive, answer is going to be positive. 8 plus 20 is 28. Number 2, negative 15 plus negative 3. They're both negative, so my answer is going to be negative, and I add the numbers. 15 plus 3, 18. 17 plus negative 19, now I've got a positive integer and a negative integer. So what I'm going to do is get the absolute values of 17, which is 17, the absolute value of negative 19, which is 19, and then I'm going to subtract. 19 take away 17 is 2. You can probably do the subtraction in your head. And now I have to decide, is that going to be a negative answer or a positive answer? 19 is bigger than 17. My 19 is negative, so my answer is going to be negative 2. Okay, number 4, negative 6 plus 20. Again, I have a negative and a positive here. So I need to find the absolute values of both numbers, 6 and 20. I'm going to subtract the numbers. 20 take away 6 is 14. I have to look at my absolute values to decide if it's going to be a positive or an integer, negative integer. 20 is bigger than 6. Excuse me, 20 is positive, so my answer is going to be positive 14. Okay, what if you're subtracting more than 2 numbers? 2 numbers is fairly easy, but what if you're subtracting more than 2? So if we're adding more than 2, we put the positive numbers together and we put the negative numbers together. So we're just going to rewrite. So 6 plus 2 minus 12. So I'm going to do this 6 plus 2 first, which is 8, and then I have 8 minus 12. Oh, sorry, 8 plus negative 12. Find the absolute values. The absolute value of 8 is 8. Absolute value of negative 12 is 12. Then I subtract. 12 take away 8 equals 4. Look at my absolute values. 12 is bigger than 8. 12 is negative, so my answer is going to be, oops, up here, negative 4. Okay, let's do one with more. Okay, so right here we've got 4 terms, 4 numbers. So we've got, I'm going to put my negatives together, so negative 13 plus negative 4, I'm going to put brackets around so that's less confusing, plus negative 5, and then our positive 5 is going to go at the end. So I've got 3 negative numbers, 3 negative integers, so negative 13 plus negative 4 plus negative 5. So the answer is going to be negative when I add all these. So 13 plus 4 is 17, 17 plus 5 is 22. So now I've got negative 22 plus 5. A negative plus a positive. The absolute value of negative 22 is 22. Absolute value of 5 is 5. I'm subtracting 22. Take away 5 will leave me with 17. And then I need to decide, is that going to be positive or negative? Well, my 22 is bigger. It's negative, so my answer is negative 17. Oops, not there, up here. Okay, so again, if there are positives and negatives, put them together. If they're all negative, like in number 6, these are all negative, I just add the numbers and have a negative sign. So 12 plus 19, 31 plus 5, 36 plus 4, 40. So my answer is negative 40. Number 5, we've got a positive, a negative, a negative, and a positive. So I'm going to do 20 plus 17 plus negative 6 plus negative 5. Okay, 20 plus 17 is 37, plus negative 6 plus negative 5 is negative 11, and then 37 plus negative 11 will give me 37 is bigger. It's going to be a positive answer, and then I just 37 take away 11, which will give me 26. Okay, so take your time when you're doing the questions. Do the support questions first. Make sure you do support questions first, and then check your answers before moving on to the key questions. Okay, so we did adding integers. Today we're going to look at subtracting integers. So in your lesson, beginning on page 9, is some information on subtracting integers. So page 9 and 10 have information on how to subtract it and examples, and then page 11 is your support question number 2. Again, do the support question, go to the end, check your answers to the support questions. Okay, support question 2, calculate each difference, so basically subtract. Check your answers to make sure that you're doing it correctly, and then if you are, you move on to the key questions. All right, so integer subtraction. So integer subtraction is a little bit trickier than integer addition because you have one extra step in there. So once you know how to add integers, then you'll also be able to subtract integers. The key step with integer subtraction is to transform an integer subtraction problem into an integer addition problem. So basically what we're doing is we're taking the subtraction problem and we're changing it to addition, and then we're going to follow the addition rules. The thing that you have to do, remember though, when you're doing that, you don't just change the sign and boom, that's it, because that won't give you the right answer because you've changed the problem. There's a couple of steps. So step 1, transform the subtraction of integers into the addition of integers. So first, keep the first number, which is known as the minuend. So you're not going to, so if it's, say, negative 5, take away 3. That first number, the minuend, will not change. So the negative 5 is going to stay as a negative 5. Second, change the operation from subtraction to addition. So here we have negative 5, take away 3, we're going to change that to negative 5 plus 3. Okay, negative 5 plus, I should say. Third, get the opposite sign of the second number, which is known as the subtrahend. You don't have to remember these names, but just telling you so you'll know. So get the opposite sign of the second number. So my second number is positive 3. I need to do the opposite of positive 3, which is negative 3. So now I started out with negative 5 minus 3. Now I've changed it to negative 5 plus negative 3. And finally, the last step, proceed with the regular addition of integers. So now I've got a negative plus a negative, so my answer is going to be negative. 5 plus 3 is 8. So my answer is negative 8. Remember your addition rules after you change from a subtraction to addition, you have to use the addition rules. So rule 1, adding two integers having the same sign, add their absolute values, then keep the common sign. So you're just adding the numbers, keep the sign. Rule 2, this is a tricky one, adding two integers with different signs, subtract their absolute values, so the larger absolute value minus the smaller absolute value, then take the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. That will be your answer. Okay, so some examples of integer subtraction. So example 1, subtract the integers below. So we've got a negative 13 minus positive 4. So first thing we need to do is transform the problem from subtraction to addition. Now remember the steps. So to do that, we keep the first number, which is negative 13. So that's not going to change. So when we make our changes, negative 13 stays negative 13. It doesn't change. Then the second step is to change from subtraction to addition. And then the third change is to switch positive 4 to negative 4. Okay, so 3 things. Keep the first number, the minuend, change the sign from subtraction to addition, and then change the sign of your subtrahend, the second number, to its opposite. And then we proceed with regular addition. So now we've got a negative 13 plus a negative 4. We don't have to worry about absolute values really because they're both negative, which means our answer is going to be negative. And 13 plus 4 is 17, so our answer is negative 17. Example 2. Positive 9 take away negative 13. So same thing that we already did. Let's do it this way actually. The 9, your first number, stays the same. That does not change. Next, we are going to change subtraction to addition, and then we're going to change negative 3 to its opposite, which is positive 3. So now we have a positive 9 plus a positive 3. Now we're just adding. We have two positive numbers, so the answer is going to be positive. 9 plus 3 is 12. Our answer is positive 12. Okay, and you can do these types of questions using a calculator. You just have to remember to use the integer key. Okay, so again, to use the integer key, type your number in first. So if you're doing, let's say, negative 9 plus 13, then we're going to punch in the 9 first. Then we're going to hit the plus minus key to make it a negative 9. And then we're adding. Oh, sorry. We're not supposed to be adding. We're supposed to be subtracting, aren't we? So let's try. Negative 9 take away 13. Let's try that again. So 9, make it negative, and then we're going to subtract. So this time you hit just the subtraction sign, and you put in the number 13 equals, and you get negative 22. So if we do it without a calculator, so our negative 9 stays negative 9. Our subtraction changes to addition. Positive 13 changes to negative 13. And now we have a negative plus a negative, which will give us a negative. 9 plus 13 is 22. Okay, so same answer. So you can use a calculator, excuse me, for your answer. Now if I can get back to my page here. There we go. So do the question negative 8 minus negative 7 using a calculator. You do the same thing. So punch in your 8 first, or sorry, your 8 first. Hit the plus minus key to make it a negative 8. Then use the subtraction key, and then hit the 7. Hit the integer key to make it a negative 7, and you'll get your answer. Okay, so let's do a little bit of practice with subtracting integers. And as I said, subtracting integers is a little bit trickier because of the changes that you have to make. Okay, so first one, negative 15 take away 14. Okay, so negative 15 doesn't change. Change minus to plus, and then change the number that we're subtracting, positive 14 to negative 14. And as I said, I'm using brackets so that it doesn't get confusing. I mean, I'm using different colored ink, so it probably would be easy to figure out anyway, but I like to use the brackets to make it less confusing. So now we have a negative 15 plus a negative 14. Since both numbers are negative, I know my answer is going to be negative, and I just add my numbers. 15 plus 14 is 29. So my answer is negative 29. So when you're doing your work in your key questions, please show your work. Show me how you got your answer. Don't just put your answer there. Okay, 2 minus a negative 8. So my 2 stays the same. I'm not changing that. I'm changing minus to plus, and I'm changing that negative 8 to its opposite, which is positive 8. And now I've got two positive numbers. 2 plus 8 is 10. Okay, there is a bit of a shortcut for some of these. So one of the shortcuts is that when you see a minus negative, so 2 minus negative 8, you've got a minus and negative, you just simply change the two negatives into a positive. So 2 minus a negative 8 is the same as 2 plus 8. In number 3, we've got 11 minus negative 11. So instead of thinking about, oh, what do I have to do, step 1, 2, 3, I can just say, well, two negatives make it positive. So 11 plus 11 equals 22. Okay, so it just shortens it a little bit, but you have to be careful. Make sure you understand it before you do it, because you might forget something. Okay, number 4, negative 5 minus 15. So now we've got a negative and a negative, but they're not right beside each other like in 2 minus negative 8 or 11 minus negative 11. It's a negative 5 minus 15. So now negative 5 is not going to change. We're going to change that subtraction to addition, and we're going to change that positive 15 to a negative 15. So now we have a negative 5 plus a negative 15, two negative numbers that we're adding. That's going to give us a smaller negative. 5 plus 15 is 20. So negative 20. Number 5, negative 5 minus 10. So the negative 5 stays the same. Change subtraction to addition. Change that positive 10 to a negative 10. And again, I have two negative numbers. Negative 5 plus negative 10, I'm going to get a negative answer. 5 plus 10 is 15. Okay. Number 6, negative 9 minus negative 1. So the negative 9 is not going to change. We've got minus negative, just change that to plus, and now I've got negative 9 plus 1. So now I've got two different signs, negative and a positive. So I have to take my absolute values. So absolute value of negative 9 is 9. Absolute value of 1 is 1. I'm going to subtract them. 9 take away 1 equals 8. Now is my answer positive or negative? 9 is bigger than 1. The 9 is negative, so my answer is going to be negative 8. Number 7. 13 take away 2. I've got a take away negative 2, so I can just change that to 13 plus 2. 13 plus 2 is 15. Number 8. 12 take away negative 4, again, minus negative, so that's 12 plus 4, which is 16. Number 9, negative 8 minus 1. So my negative 8 is going to stay as negative 8. I'm going to change my minus to plus, change my positive 1 to a negative 1. Now I have two negatives. So negative plus a negative is a negative. 8 plus 1 is 9. Number 10, 1 minus 10. So 1 stays the same. Change my minus to a plus. Change my positive 10 to a negative 10. Now I've got a positive and a negative number that I'm adding. So I need to find the absolute values. Absolute value of 1 is 1. Absolute value of negative 10 is 10. Then I subtract. 10 take away 1 is 9. My 10 is bigger than my 1. My 10 is negative, so my answer is negative 9. And like I said, the subtraction you could probably do mostly in your head. So here, keep my negative 7, and I've got a minus negative, so I'm going to change that to plus. Now I've got negative 7 plus 15. Absolute value of negative 7 is 7. Absolute value of 15 is 15. 15 take away 7 is 8. 15 is bigger, it's positive, so my answer is positive 8. Okay, 14 take away 9. 14 doesn't change. And this one is basic subtraction. You don't even really have to make any changes. Just do 14 take away 9. 5. Okay, so some of them are simple. Just look at them. Okay, think about what you're doing, but just don't make it any harder than it is. Okay, so what happens if you have more than 2 integers that you're subtracting? First thing you're going to do is change the signs. So negative 3 minus 4 minus negative 1. So your negative 3 is going to stay the same. The first number always stays the same. So then you're going to change your minus to a plus, change your positive 4 to a negative 4. Here we've got minus and negative, so I'm going to change that to plus 1. So now I've got a negative 3 plus a negative 4 plus 1. So now think back to your addition rules. Group your negative integers together and your positive integers together. So I've got my negative integers are together. Negative 3 plus negative 4 is going to give me negative 7. Only got one positive integer. Now I've got a negative 7 plus 1. Absolute value excuse me, of negative 7 is 7. Absolute value of positive 1 is 1. 7 take away 1 is 6. Is my 6 negative or positive? 7 is got the bigger absolute value. It's negative, so my answer is going to be negative 6. Okay, so a few more steps to take, but just take your time. Okay, number 2, I've got negative 1 minus negative 6 minus 6. So my negative 1 is going to stay the same. Minus negative 6 is going to change to plus 6. And then minus changes to plus. Positive 6 changes to negative 6. So right here, I've got positive 6 take away negative 6, which right away is 0. So now I've got negative 1 plus 0. Any number plus 0 is equal to itself. So negative 1 is my answer. That was a bit of a shortcut that I took there. Really, you're supposed to go from left to right. But you would get the same answer. Okay, number 3. Negative 2 minus 2 minus negative 8. So negative 2 stays the same. Changing minus 2 to plus negative 2. And minus a negative to plus 8. So here I've got negative 2 plus negative 2, which will give me negative 4 plus 8. Absolute value of negative 4 is 4. Absolute value of 8 is 8. And after a while, you don't even need to write this down. You just do it in your head. So I've got 4. I'm doing 8 take away 4, which is 4. 8 is bigger. It's positive, so my answer is positive 4. Okay, number 4, negative 3 plus negative 6 minus 4. So my negative 3 stays the same. Minus, it's dry in here. Give me a second. Okay, sorry about that. It's getting dry. So minus a negative 6, I can change that to plus 6, and then subtraction changes to addition. Positive 4 changes to negative 4. So I've got negative 3 plus 6 plus negative 4. Now I'm going to put my negatives together. Negative 3 plus negative 4 plus 6. I've only got one positive, so I'm just going to attach that to the end. Now I can add my negative numbers. Negative 3 plus negative 4 will give me negative 7. So now I've got negative 7 plus 6. And you can just look at the numbers, 7 and 6. 7 take away 6 is 1. 7 is bigger than 6. It's negative, so my answer is going to be negative 1. So like I said, the more you do this, the easier it becomes to do some of it in your head. But if you're not sure, if you're kind of struggling with it a little bit, do it step by step until you're confident with what you're doing. Okay, the next one, negative 1, take away negative 8, take away 3. So my negative 1 is going to stay the same. Here I can change that to plus 8, and then minus changes to plus. Positive 3 changes to a negative 3. So I've got a negative 1 plus 8 plus negative 3. Now I'm going to put my negative integers together and my positive 1 at the end. So negative 1 plus negative 3 will give me negative 4. So negative 4 plus 8. The absolute value of negative 4 is 4. The absolute value of 8 is 8. And I subtract 8, take away 4. I can do this in my head. Will give me 4. But is it a positive 4 or a negative 4? Well, 8 is bigger than 4. 8 is bigger, so my answer is positive 4. Now, I think I mentioned this before, but I can't remember for sure. You don't have to put a plus sign in front of a positive number. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. But you have to put a negative sign in front of a negative number, otherwise it's positive. So remember that. Okay, number 6. Negative 7 stays the same. So take away 8 becomes plus negative 8. Take away 2 or minus 2 becomes plus negative 2. So all you're doing is putting in a plus sign in front of the minus sign, really. So now I've got 3 negative numbers. So all I have to do, they're all negative, so my answer is going to be negative. 7 plus 8 is 15, plus 2 is 17, so my answer is negative 17. Okay, so that's how you subtract integers, by first changing them to addition problems and then following the addition rules. So answers to support questions. As you do the support questions, make sure you check your answers at the end. If you're doing really well, you can move on to the key questions. So key question number 2 is finding the difference. So again, like I said, show me your work. Write it out so that I can see what you're doing. If you just put in an answer, then I have no idea what you did wrong and I can't point it out to you. If you do everything, write all your work out, all your steps out, then I can see where you went wrong and I can let you know so that you don't do it again. So A, we've got 3 take away 2. You don't have to worry about changing 3 take away 2 to 3 plus negative 2. Just do your basic subtraction. 3 take away 2 is 1. Okay, so some of them are like that. Some of them are easy. So just look at what's there, take it at face value, and if you can add or subtract, do it. If, however, you're dealing with a negative number or you're subtracting, so if this was 2 take away 3, then you would have to make the changes. But because the bigger number is subtracting the smaller number, then you don't have to do that. Okay, so look at what you're doing before you start doing anything. So in B, we've got negative 5 minus 6. So in B, you want to make your changes. So negative 5, change subtraction to addition, change that 6 to its opposite, which is negative 6. Now you're adding two negative numbers, so your answer is going to be a smaller negative number. So both negative, 5 plus 6, 11. Okay, take your time. Now I'm just going to scroll down here to G. In G, we have three numbers that we're dealing with here. So in G, you need to take your time a little bit. So negative 4 minus 6 plus negative 3. So negative 4 stays the same. Then we have to change this minus 6 to plus negative 6. And then plus 3. There's nothing there to change. So as I mentioned, when you're adding or subtracting more than two numbers, and when we do two numbers, we go automatically left to right. So if there's more than two numbers, you do the same thing. You go left to right. So if you have to rearrange them first. So put all your negative numbers together, put all your positive numbers together. Then add your negative numbers. So negative 4 plus negative 6 will give me negative 10. And then if you have more than one positive number, add those together. And then you'll have one negative plus a positive. So I've got negative 10 plus 3. Now I have to use my addition rules. So think addition rules. Okay, absolute value of negative 10 is 10. Absolute value of positive 3 is 3. Now I subtract. 10 take away 3 equals 7. Now, is that 7 a positive 7 or is it a negative 7? 10 is bigger than 3. The 10 is negative. So that means my answer is going to be negative 7. Okay, so be very careful with that. Make sure that you are doing it one step at a time. And there is space here to write out what you did. Or if there's not, you can use lined paper. Okay, just make sure that you take your time when you're doing this. Okay, so that's it for subtracting integers and key question 2. So next day, on Thursday, we will be looking at our next topic, which we're going to actually kind of combine. We're going to do two things. If I can find where I started here. There we go. So we're going to be doing multiplying and dividing integers on Thursday, and that will finish us up with integers. And then next week we're going to start working on fractions. So fractions are a little bit trickier than integers. So make sure that you understand integers before we move on to fractions, because that's going to take a bit of work. Okay, so that is it. That is it for our class today. So good luck with that key question. If you have any questions about it or you're not sure, please contact me. And you can also watch the class again on YouTube, and you can watch the class from last year, pretty much the same class, same key question, nothing has changed there, so you can watch last year's class. Okay, so good luck with that key question, and I will talk to you again in class on Thursday. Miigwech.